Thank you for joining us on this Tuesday, February 20th for our administrative meeting of the Board of County Commissioners of Missoula County. Annie, would you like to do roll call for us?
Sure. It looks like online we have Carolyn Bean, Cheryl Hartman, Chris Osbury, Emmy Bristow, Erica Grinde, Jenna Miller, Kevin Hauser, Matt Lotzenhauser, MCAT, Mel Fisher. We have a guest, first name Keith. Could I grab your last name, Keith or Kevin? Oh, Keith. Sorry.
I don't have a camera or a microphone on my computer, so I've also called in. It's Keith Koprivica.
Oh, thank you so much, Keith.
Thank you.
Okay. And in 206, we have Commissioners Strohmeyer and Bureau, Allison France, Carrie Powers, Ann Hughes, Vinnie Pavlish, myself, Annie Cathy, and we also have Elizabeth Erickson and Dave Kottner.
All right, thank you, Annie. Is there any public comment on items not on today's agenda?
Yes, I have a comment.
Mr. Koprivica, please jump right in.
Thank you, Commissioner Strohmeyer. I have a continued concern about how musical entertainment is being hired for the Western Montana Fair. In March of last year, NBC Montana did a report about the lack of transparency and the lack of a process for hiring musical entertainment. In that report, Tracy Lopez, Missoula County's independent contractor, said the county did not provide specific criteria to follow. Her quote was, "Since 2021, when they asked me to do this, there's never been a process that I know of." She also said she would love it if it was clearer and there was an application process. So last week I called the fair office and asked when they would start recruiting music and bands, and I was told that I could leave my name and contact information and it would be passed on to the music contractor. Just like last year, there's nothing posted on the fair website recruiting bands. Currently on the fair website, there's a page devoted to be a vendor, and that page recruits concession vendors, amusement vendors, and commercial vendors. Applications are posted to that page. And here's an example. The application to be a food vendor asks numerous questions like name, description of business or organization, previous participation, years of experience, website, menu, pricing, booth footprint, and a photo and the name of certified food protection manager. The applications for the commercial vendors and amusement vendors are similar, but there's not a written application for musical entertainment. In fact, nowhere on the fair website is there any mention about applying to be a musical act. There's not even information on how to contact Tracy Lopez. Last year, the fair spent about $65,000 on bands and sound and lights for the musical entertainment, and none of those musical acts generated any direct revenue to the fair. The fair is a Missoula County event. No public information on recruitment criteria for music at the fair is that I can find. And so what I ask is, where's the transparency regarding the process for hiring musical entertainment at the fair? And I'm calling on you, the Board of County Commissioners, to step in, create a process, and open this up to the public, because it's taxpayer money that's funding the fair, and we, the taxpayers, deserve more transparency. Thank you.
Thank you, Keith. We will follow up with staff on this and get back to you.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
You bet. Is there any other public comment on items not on today's agenda? Okay, seeing none, we'll jump into the consent agenda. We have 5 items today. Would anyone like to pull anything off the consent agenda for discussion?
No. I move to approve the consent agenda.
I will second that. Any further discussion or public comment on the consent agenda? Okay, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We will jump into our action items. We have 3 action items today. The first relates to Glen Eagle, the gift that keeps on giving. So Erica, would you be so kind as to introduce this to us?
Sure. Commissioners, before you is an exchange agreement for real property between Missoula County and two entities that own properties within the Glen Eagle subdivision, MTAC Land Holdings and SEV Enterprises. This exchange agreement authorizes exchange of parcels owned by the county in return for parcels owned by MTAC and SEV. I'll allow Elizabeth to go further into the work that was done to determine that the properties are equivalent value, and also answer any of your questions. Also, MTAC and SEV's counsel Dave Cotner is there as well to assist with any questions that you may have. So the request is really to approve that exchange agreement, as well as I will allow Elizabeth to provide any further direction because there may need to be some additional approvals in regard to deeds and any other closing documents along the way that need to be authorized.
Thank you, Erica. Elizabeth, would you like to walk us through the specifics?
Yes, thank you, Erica. And Dave has been helping revise this over time, so he's available to answer questions too. The last time I was here to present to you, we have taken a handful of steps since then. One is to get another appraisal of the property. MTAC and SEV appraised the property, and then the county ordered a second appraisal, and they both indicated that the per acre value of the properties, there's a range of value, but they're equivalent for the acreage. The county will receive slightly more acreage in this exchange than SEV and MTAC, and so that means that the county will receive just slightly more value, but in terms of the acreage per value, they're equivalent. And overall, the three main components. One is that the county will be receiving a large piece of common area, which is contiguous, and it will be adjacent to a lot of other county land. And MTAC and SEV will be receiving a number of county lots, and those are listed on the first page of the exchange agreement. In addition, MTAC and SEV have agreed to allow the county to put in a trail corridor if needed that would eventually connect, and this is looking longer term, but would connect from other county land up the hill up to the top of Glen Eagle, and it would provide the opportunity to connect a trail in that location. And that's something that I've been in touch with the City Conservation Lands program, because they own a significant piece of open space land, city open space conservation land just the south on the Blue Road property. So the eventual goal would be to connect a trail up from there. Again, a longer term goal there. And then another portion of the exchange is that the county, if the plat for Glen Eagle is ever vacated or abandoned, that the county would ensure that MTAC and SEV would have access to their properties. And that's effectively a statutory requirement for a plat vacation anyway. So
would you mind walking us through the exhibits so I can visualize what
Or we're swapping.
Yes.
yep. So
I know you've done this like a gazillion times for us, but it's.
So Exhibit A are the lots that are owned by the county in pink. And those are the lots that will be transferred to MTAC and SEV.
And the two on the far east, those, they're just a lighter color because they're of the printer, or is that something special about them?
That's just, I think, the printer.
Okay.
Yep. And then Exhibit B, the area shaded in yellow, is the common area that the county will receive. In addition to two lots, you can see kind of embedded in there, lot number 73 and 74.
And refresh my memory, what is the ownership status of the lots that are enclosed within that common area?
Those, let me get my current ownership. So those should, yep. So most of them are county. However, there are 8 lots that are owned by the prior owner of all Glen Eagle, which is Ken Nye. and those are in yellow here. And so there will be kind of the smaller island on the far east, but that's not, that's farther east. And those are in, in bankruptcy still, and there's a lot of questions as to the outcome of that. Did that answer your question? And then Exhibit C shows basically the right-of-ways, which are currently platted public right-of-ways on the Glen Eagle plat. And the only way that those would be ever abandoned or vacated is if the entire plat were abandoned or vacated, and all of the landowners that are part of the Glen Eagle subdivision would have to agree to that. And so
What's the difference in colors, yellow, green, and blue?
I think it was just how they are referenced in the agreement. It just was ensuring that MTAC and SEV would have legal access to their parcels.
Do any of the parcels, did properties go to the center line of the right of way, or
No,
they do not?
it's a road created by the plat. So since I shaded those real quick, the green, the blue that you see is an access point. That's always been in dispute in Glen Eagle. Historically, it's always, Ken Knight always took the position he controlled that access point. So it's just shaded just to show where that is. The green is shaded green because it's likely roads that would need to be maintained to provide access to third-party owners at some point. The yellow is frankly roads that, if the plat was abandoned, would no longer be necessary. Is the way we've coded those colors.
Thank you.
And then Exhibit D shows the area where the county could potentially have a trail that is located on the property that's being retained by MTAC and SEV, which is part of the western common area.
And we have the city has a trail further south. What happens further south? There's like something off the map, right?
So the city owns the Bluebird property, which is on the south, to the south. The county owns more land that's kind of on the north side of the gully. And there's this corner where there could potentially be a connection.
Okay.
And I reached out to the Conservation Lands Department just to see what they had intended. And they actually depicted on their management plan for the Bluebird property as a future trail connection. And so I believe there would be legal access if you had a trail that crossed right at this corner. Whether that's going to be developed anytime soon, there's just a lot of factors, because it would, at the moment, be a trail to nowhere,
right
up to the top of
and it wouldn't even get you like through to this side.
Correct. But as you well know from lots of open space conservation in Missoula, you just have to, it's like a big self-control. And so the thinking here is that it would allow a trail to switch back if it were to be developed in this area, because it's just a really steep slope. There's a gully between Glen Eagle and the Bluebird property.
Gotcha.
So it would just provide that opportunity. And now is the time to
Put it in place. Yep.
part of this transaction. So those are the exhibits. A couple of details regarding the transaction. The way to transfer the common area to the county is going to entail a boundary line relocation. And so that will be some additional steps to apply to the planning department, and then have that essentially the common area will need to be combined with some other with at least one other county-owned lot to relocate that boundary, because right now the common area for all of Glen Eagle is one legal attractive record. And so I'm just sharing that because that's going to take a little bit of additional process.
But we'd be applying to ourselves.
Well, I think MTAC and SEV and the county would have to jointly apply, because those would be the two boundaries that are moving.
Yeah,
But
we've hired the surveyor, waiting for this approval to start creating that next step that we will need to get the deeds finalized and signed at some point.
And so that application plus any plat amendment, or I guess it would be a certificate of survey potentially, would need to be part of this. And then there would be a deed and a realty transfer certificate that would transfer the county-owned lots to MTAC and SCV. And then accompanying that certificate of survey for the boundary line relocation would be a deed and a realty transfer certificate to the county. And again, any sort of easements for the roads would only need to happen down the road if the plat were vacated, and that would have to happen anyway. And then finally, we could discuss whether we want to have an actual trail easement recorded for that location. So those are the closing documents that will need to be signed or executed to accomplish this exchange agreement.
Mr. Connor, anything you'd like to?
No, nothing really, except thank you for indulging us through this process. It's been lengthy for Elizabeth and I just appreciate the county's cooperation. These are two particular landowners who created LLCs that became concerned when the development began in Glen Eagle. So the initial approach was, what do we need to do to stop this? And so while it seems to appear that lots are being conveyed, they're really not lots being conveyed. It's to create a contiguous piece of real estate. John Bigley, which is MTAC, is in this area. Dr. Van Dorsten is in this area. So they have plans with respect to making certain that the development that was once approved by Missoula County doesn't happen. And so they contacted me, and through the process of working with Elizabeth in the county and Erica, all of whom I much appreciate because they know more about this than I do, but it worked out well for my clients. I think it works out well for Missoula County. So thank you for letting me attend today.
Questions?
Great. A timeline, like when are our closing documents?
I think it's going to depend on the boundary line process. There's a surveyor who's hired from IMEG, Matt Jacobson, who's great, and he's working on just figuring out the exhibits for that before and after, because the common area, as I mentioned, it'll need to be combined with one of the other county-owned lots. So hopefully within the next couple months.
Oh,
Sure
okay.
exactly what the time frame is for those. We know what needs to happen. It's just getting it through that process.
Great. Thank you.
Erica, anything else? Oh,
Just
oh, there she is.
no, just two quick things. First, Dave's being pretty humble. He certainly knows more about Glen Eagle than anyone in the room or on the call. But the other thing I just want to point out, yeah, Dave Cotner. I mean, Dave Strohmeyer, you might too. But no, the other thing I want to point out is when Elizabeth was talking about the ownership, just to remind you, commissioners, that there are just a few lots that still remain with some other parties that are really, I would say, in the central part of that subdivision. I just want to make that clear for you all, but also any members of the public that are listening.
Okay, let's continue on the journey here.
What do we have here? Yes. Motion to approve the exchange agreement.
We'll second that. Any further discussion or public comment on this? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, Dave, for joining
Thank you.
us.
Appreciate it.
We're gonna have to have a party or something. Like, what's the opposite of a ribbon cutting? Sign it up. Sign it up. Yes.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Nice to see you.
Thank you both.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
All right, moving on from Glen Eagle, we have amendment number 1 to the PSA with Bureau Veritas North America. Shane.
Kevin.
Oh, Kevin.
Kevin, all right.
Yes, good morning, commissioners. We're seeking approval to have Bureau Veritas outline a clear and concise path forward for individuals that want to purchase sheds and convert them into cabins, accessory dwelling units, or even single-family residences. So Missoula County has a more clear and concise path forward that is consistent with other jurisdictions.
Maybe explain a little bit more. So So this would be to update our building code, or what precisely would they be doing for us?
So they would be providing documents, handouts, etc., for us to be able to give to the public when people come in asking about converting a shed into a cabin or even a house. And so they would do research on what needs to happen, because those structures, if you buy a shed from like say a roadside shed vendor, their design criteria, they're built as sheds. They're not built as a house or a cabin. And so when they apply for a building permit, there's a change of use that has to happen. And typically a structural engineer has to sign off on that change of use, because they're not built to the same codes as a house would be. And we get quite a bit of these walk-ins with this type of request, or want to have information on what would be my next step forward. And I just want a more professional, clean-looking document to provide to the public.
Great.
And who is Bureau Veritas North America?
Yeah, great question. So they're also our third-party plan reviewer. So we've partnered with them recently for larger commercial project review. And so this would be just an addendum to their current contract to allow them to provide this service.
Okay, great.
Oh, off topic a little bit. Are we having a discussion with you, Kevin, or Chris, or Rita sometime soon about farm structures, agricultural structures? Okay, great.
Yes,
I just didn't know when that's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe March 4th is when Shane got it penciled in for, and I've got a presentation for you guys, and I'm looking forward to the discussion.
Great, thank you so much. And yes, I move to approve this amendment number 1 to the PSA.
Second, further discussion or public comment? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye. Kevin, how many do we see of these roughly, like people needing to convert?
Oh, this year alone, I would say there's probably been 6 to 10. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it's not an insane amount, but it's enough to where it'd be better
It's
to have
cumbersome.
them. Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
You have a horse shed you'd like to convert into an 80?
Exactly.
All right, thanks, Kevin.
Thank you.
Our final action item relates to the reappointment of Sharon Sweeney to OLC.
And Matt is in a class right now. So it's just a standard reappointment. She sent her a letter of interest in, saying she was in.
They are lucky to have her, and
Yeah.
she's fantastic, and I'm so glad she's re-upping.
I think that's a motion. Any further discussion or public comment on the reappointment of Sharon Sweeney to OLC? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. So we have 3 letters, 3 pieces of correspondence today. I think the first one, this is probably yours, Matt.
Is he on still?
Yes, is it for St. Michael's Church?
That would be it.
Okay, perfect. So I'll kind of fill you in on it. So we're
Oh, we lost you, Matt. You might have to turn off your camera.
it's the oldest structure in Missoula County. It was moved here to the Historical Museum grounds in 1981. And the project, it's a
Hey, Matt, if you can hear us, why don't you turn off your camera? It looks like you're broadband at the
program.
museum. Hey, Matt, can you hear us?
We can type him a note.
Hey, Matt, can you hear us? What?
I
Please
can.
turn off your camera, please.
Okay, it's off. Hopefully it'll be better. I've had issues with the camera on, but
Okay, why don't you
so I'll go ahead and finish
start
up.
from the top.
Okay, so we're applying for a Montana Historic Preservation Grant, and this will be for St. Michael's Church. St. Michael's Church, as you guys know, is the oldest structure in Missoula County, not on its original property, but the oldest structure. It was moved here to the museum in 1981, and we are applying for the grant. It's a $143,000 project to do a full restoration of the exterior of the church. We're asking for $114,000 through this grant program. And then the balance on the matching dollars for that, which is 20%, will be raised by the Friends of the Historical Museum at Fort Missoula. The project's going to include log repair and oiling, any repair, replacement of the daubing around the logs, roof replacement. There are modern windows in the building that we'll be taking out and putting in historical replicas, so it brings it back to that 1863 look. We're also replacing the front porch and upgrading and replacing the ADA ramp on the outside of the church. So in coming up with a grant proposal, I've worked with Preserve Montana, as well as I consulted with Kathy Bickenhauser, who's on the Historic Preservation Commission and who does a lot of the log work for the Forest Service. And then finally ran it by Paul over at A&E to get some numbers on that to come up with a budget for the grant. The grant is due on the 29th of this month. It's one of these lovely legislature grants, meaning that it's due on the 29th in 2024, and we would not be awarded the funds until September of 2025. So we're looking at probably spring of 26 until the work would get underway. But I feel really good about this project. It's something that's needed on our site because of the year and a half kind of lag between request and funding. It's not a project that's in a dire situation at this point, but it's definitely going to need to be done. But it can wait for construction to take place in 26. So there's no impact on the county budget for this because it is considered a Friends project. But I'm hopeful that the BCC would like to write a letter of support to help us get this grant.
Okay, as luck would have it, I think there is a letter already
Yes.
written. So, yeah, thanks, Matt. Happy to sign that. I believe the second item is a letter of support for the same grant program, different project. This is restoration work on Montana building in downtown Missoula. It's the building where you've probably seen iconic images of Theodore Roosevelt giving a speech in front of the building. 1911 or so.
And I keep looking at it through the window and it looks sad. We can
prior
do this.
remodels did not do it well in the 1960s or so. So anyway, we have that letter too.
Thank you, guys.
We will be signing that. And finally, let's see here. We've got a letter in support of raise for 5 bridges in Missoula County. Does not look like we have anyone from Public Works still, but we talked about this.
We know these 5 bridges. So yeah, it's due today.
I want to say the 26th is when it's.
Okay.
It looks like it's already been signed.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I sent out the email requesting it was okay to sign and got it to him already so that he can meet his deadline.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
And do we know if like Tesser, Danes, Zinke's, they were also sending letters of support? Like how do we know?
I don't know that for sure, but we can check with Shane.
It's always a mystery.
Yeah,
We'll see.
okay.
Martin, did you have any questions about anything that we talked about today?
You know, the storage shed's pretty interesting. Is that a novel idea? And is that something that the county currently zones for?
You know, I have no idea. So
And Kevin got off.
I want to touch bases with Shane Stack or Kevin, who was on the line earlier with our building division.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay, anything else from anyone? All right, thanks everyone. Have a great week.